Welcome to the Authentically Elisa podcast, Reshaping Business with Integrity, the podcast where we explore how to run your business authentically and with integrity. I'm your host, Elisa Boogaerts, a business coach and launch manager, helping coaches launch their programs and events that align with their business values. Together, we'll uncover the secrets to building a successful business without sacrificing morals, ethics, authenticity, or heart. Let's dive in. All right, so let's dive into today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about how to spot the right marketing partner and making meaningful and deeper connections. So today, I have an amazing guest with me. Behdad Jamshidi. And Behdad is the founder of the CJAM The Marketing Connector. And he started that after realizing that most companies don't know how to evaluate the value of a marketing agency or assess their own needs. And since every business is different, not only in their needs, but where they're at in their growth process, it isn't a one size fits all. So in the past 6 years, B has met with and assessed 1,061 plus marketing agencies and vetted them down to a lean 100 plus preferred partners across all marketing niches. After pairing hundreds of businesses with the right partners, he's found his skill set lies in the matchmaking process. Featured in MarketWatch, Bloomberg, National Post, and the Financial Post, Bay's unique background in marketing, engineering, consulting, leadership, sales, and strategy has allowed him to serve as the conduit between business owners and the marketing teams they need. Welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about, I know I kind of went through it in your bio, but how you got into this field of work and just why you're so passionate about it.
Yeah, it's super random. How did an engineer end up becoming a connector in the marketing space?
Yeah.
It kind of just came out of left field, to be honest. I spent almost 10 years working for TELUS, as a sales engineer, working with like mid-sized companies, understanding kind of what's going on from a C-level perspective, IT perspective, and then bridging the gap between like business and technology. Like, how do people get from A to B to C?
Mhm.
Within companies like the Lushes of the world, like large law firms, not-for-profits, manufacturing, and just a whole host of different types of businesses. And as I did that, I got a lot of business consulting, sales, leadership, and technology experience. But on the marketing side, I started kind of like in the similar vein where I just learned how to build websites, Google Ads, and SEO, and just hated doing 80-hour websites on the weekend. Like, it just wasn't fun,
No.
especially when you have a full-time gig. And so I
Mm.
started looking for different agencies to work with. And as you mentioned, like, I just found that there's such a gap between just marketing agencies not understanding business and businesses not really understanding marketing and just constantly failing and going in circles. And so I really thought, like, could I build a network of like 10 really solid marketing partners and then be the matchmaker? And that's kind of what led me down the road to now talking to, you kind of mentioned that, 1,061. I'm at 1,077 now. Um, but just kind of finding out who's good at what stage, at what level, and then matchmaking them based on like what a business actually needs. And realizing that my like superpower is really in like the connecting with people and then connecting people together space.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you differentiate that because yeah, you're right. It's not a one size fits all. Like not, it depends where you're at, how big your company is, what you're looking for as to what type of marketing that you need. And I think it's really awesome that someone can actually, like you can actually connect people with the right people because I feel like, businesses, we all want to make business. And so sometimes people will sell you on whatever, even though it may not actually be a right fit. So
Yeah, and it's not like, and some people just don't know either, right? Like, they think they're the best solution for someone, but like they only
right.
know what they do. Like, they haven't seen the macro version of it to be like, oh, there's all these options out there. There's all these channels out there. Here's what's shifting. And so having kind of like that macro lens, I think, is a super, super useful because you can really tell people it's like, hey, that thing you think you're unique around? It's really not that unique, but here's what actually makes you unique and what makes you good and where you fit. Which is just like kind of a cool viewpoint to have. And it's always changing, right?
Mm.
Technology changes, society changes, external factors change, and so do the businesses along with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very interesting how things change. One of my clients is all has like a TV network, and so she's like getting people to host their own shows, and she talked about that as well. How like things sort of like in the whole Hollywood and TV industry are very much shifting, and that people kind of want more authentic people and they want more real people, and kind of like the whole sort of like Hollywood super famous actors and all that. Like, it's people are wanting that less and less and less. And I think, was it like last year there was some big block around it where like people were blocking all these celebrities or something, and like, yeah, it's
Oh,
interesting how things change.
yeah, that's super interesting. And yeah, I heard that same thing around the Hollywood stuff. It just seems like people just want more people that they can relate to and don't want to live up to this like standard that just doesn't exist out there. But yeah,
Mm.
it's super interesting to see how things shift. And there's so many micro environments and there's so many macro environments. So it's really hard to like keep track of it all.
Yeah.
Especially in marketing, even after how many people I've met, like I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly seeing what's shifting. I'm seeing new players come in, seeing them evolve, some of them disappear. So it's a really interesting environment just to sit back and watch and learn from.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you think about how is AI affecting it all?
AI is affecting it in different ways, in so many different ways, but I'm still curious on like what the biggest impact of it is. So let's just say for current marketing agencies that are adopting the AI trends, it is making them more efficient in doing things, but they still need to be really strategic, right? If you're just an execution focused agency, you're gonna have a lot of trouble down the road. But I think if you're quite strategic and you know how to use AI to either help you give out, a better product, I think you're gonna be ahead. And then you have a lot of AI agencies and marketing AI agencies that are starting from kind of scratch right now. And they're only like a year or 2 years in, right? And typically, when you look at agencies, it takes them about 5 years to really find their footing. So you'll see a lot of businesses get burned by a lot of these new agencies because they don't have systems and processes and the people and all that stuff in place yet. And so it's still kind of a toss up and figuring out who's really good, who's not, where you should be using it, where you shouldn't be using it. But I mean, as it kind of goes through the chaos, it will become clearer and clearer once we get to the other side.
Right. Yeah. I feel like we're kind of like in that chaos right now. Or it's just, yeah, it's building and building. And there's so many different AI tools out there. Like it's incredible. Like I learn more and more about them all the time. And I just like, I don't even know
Yeah, but you're
which
in
ones to look
marketing.
at?
Yeah, you're in marketing, and I think a lot of businesses are really stressed about it. Like, oh, I need to jump on this, or I'm going to fall really far behind. I mean, like everyone, if you're in like the first mover space and you're seeing everyone move really, really fast, you feel like you're behind. But then you look at like 90% of the rest of the businesses and they're like, yeah, they're still just figuring out the prompting thing.
Right.
That you still have to move culture and people, right? It's not just because technology moves ahead that people move ahead. I think you just have to have an awareness of that, and use it for where it makes sense. But there's also some beautiful and really cool things that are happening for like large companies that are, partnering with different startups and being able to take mass amounts of data that they never could take in before. And with AI, then create models that they could use. Like an example that I heard recently from a CIO was they took about 80% of Canada's terrain and was able to mark out where landslides would happen. And then based on the areas the landslides are in, which ones to focus on, based on, hey, this one location has a hospital and 400 homes here. The other one might have, less residential area. So which one are you going to prioritize first to fix? That was not something that was possible before because just the vast amount of data and the computing power needed. AI was able to help them do that. And so you start seeing like so many cool things just from like the bottom and the top end. But I still think there's a long way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so too. But yeah, that's amazing. I didn't know about that, the whole landslide thing. Yeah. See, that's
Yeah.
when you can really use it for good and actually, like make a difference because that could save all those people from having their homes destroyed or, like that could really do a lot of good.
Yeah, 100%.
Hmm. So what does your bit running your business with authenticity? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think first of all, to be authentic, you need to understand who you are. And I don't think a lot of people have actually spent a lot of time to actually question that. So, like what are your values? What are your beliefs? Like what do you want to do in life and where do you want to go? Like the more you understand kind of who you are and how you became who you are, I think the more authentic you can be. And so for me, it's actually the first step was actually doing the exploration for myself. I've done counseling for over 12 years. I've done conflict resolution courses, mediation courses, emotional intelligence courses, leadership. Like I've done a lot. And I'm constantly journaling and just trying to figure out like what's going on in Behdad and B, like who is this person? And as I've uncovered that, then I've been able to find the core values that I want to run my business by, right? Like the things that really matter to me, like being radically transparent, building long-term relationships, having A players only within my company, doing the right things always, and then constantly growing and sharing knowledge. Like those are my five core values that I run the business by. And so every decision that I make when I'm working with a customer is pretty much around that. So, a customer says, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And the do the right thing always for me, and the transparency thing is being very blunt around, here's what's going to happen, here's what you can expect, and here's what you think the outcome is going to be. It's probably going to be fully different. There is no silver bullet. And so just showing up very authentically and being very transparent, because for me, I never want to have a customer or a friend or anyone in my life to come and say, "B, you told me something and that wasn't correct, or you didn't follow through with that thing." Um, that bothers me the most. And I know that that's just me not being in integrity if I don't do that. Um, so it's a lot to think about, but that's what I think being authentic in business for me really means.
I love that. And yeah, because as well done a lot of personal growth and courses and books and what have you. And so I got to learn myself well, my values. And then just recently, I guess it was earlier at the beginning of this year, um, did one about like, oh, what are my business values? And I was like, oh yeah, I haven't really thought about that, because like still being like the solopreneur, right? It's like, and I was like, oh yeah, to think about that. And then actually like you were saying, journaling on it. And it's like, okay, well, why is this, why does like efficiency, for example, why is that important to me? And it was like, and I was able to really like distinguish it down to, like working with my clients and what that means and like how it all really connects to being, the freedom of an entrepreneur and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I love what you said about transparency. And it's funny how just recently I do proposals for clients, and I've always kind of wondered, like, is this a good proposal? Is this not a good proposal? Like, what does someone think when they see this? And but like you said, it's very transparent. It is like bullet pointing exactly how I'm gonna like manage your launch and like the things that I will deliver on and how I will do them. And that you just reminded me of saying that, like, oh yeah, it's very transparent. So maybe it is done right.
Yeah, yeah. If it feels right to you and you're like, I got everything across, and the customer doesn't come back going, I didn't know that that was supposed to happen, or this didn't happen the way that you told me, like, then you just make little iterations on it. But I have something very similar. Like, I have an engagement letter that I send after every call that a customer wants to potentially hire me. And I go, great, if you want to hire me, I'm going to send you over my engagement letter. In there, it literally lists out how my network works, how I reach out, how I do things, how much I would charge extra if it takes more time because some customers want more meetings. I want everything there so that if anyone ever goes like, "Hey, B, you didn't tell me about that," I'm like, "No, it's in the engagement letter. Like, it's not my fault if you didn't read it, and I've vocalized it, right? Like that feels good to me. Like running my business authentically to the point where I never feel like I said something that is not true. I want everything to be as accurate as possible, and especially in the like marketing world and in the connection world, like you're connecting. And essentially, like if you're connecting a business to another business, you're connecting two humans together, right? Like it's like a relationship matchmaking service, basically, but on the business side. And so that's complex and that's not easy, right? They have to be able to communicate with each other. A business has to have their operational stuff down because if a marketing agency is able to actually grow the business and more products are selling and they don't have enough products, that's going to affect the marketing business. Like there's so many unknowns. And so when people go like, well, I just want something that works, like great, that thing could work, but then you're gonna find other things that break on your side, which are gonna ruin the relationship in a different way, right? So never promising something that's not possible. And like really just setting people's expectations.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's about the setting expectations and being honest with it and following through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think most people are afraid that if they're honest and they're transparent, that people will likely not do business with them and et cetera, et cetera. But
Mm.
I think the longest term relationship you'll ever have is where you set the expectations correctly and let people come in with the right mindset versus it being a little bit more of a transactional thing where you're like, oh, close this, hopefully it works, but it's going to ruin your name down the road.
Right. Yeah, I totally think that as well. Which kind of brings me to my next question is, how do you think that we can reshape business to be more in integrity, to like be more in the way that you just spoke about?
Yeah, it's hard. I think it really comes down to people, and people really understanding like who they are, right? Like if people really understand who they are, like just that you get this feeling, right? Like if you're saying something that's not truthful or if something doesn't work the way, you get a feeling internally, and that feeling is like guilt or shame or whatever it is. And most people aren't able to identify those emotions, so they just block them out, right?
Right.
I don't want to feel this. I'm gonna go have a drink tonight, or I'm
Yeah.
gonna do something that like blocks having those emotions. But I think the more you're in tune with who you are, because I essentially think people are good people, and everyone wants to do the best for people, and everyone wants to help, right? Like that's the good feelings we want to have. So I think the more people get in tune with how they're feeling, what they do, what they're really good at, they can be more and more authentic and honest with the people they work with, which I think will just build those long-term relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting to me. Sometimes I like run into these things where that integrity kind of pops into my head. Like it just happened the other day where someone was talking about um that they had an issue where they had to fire somebody, and then there became a thing where they like still had access to documents or something, and it was like you're going to take the documents, and there was all this kind of thing. So then all of a sudden that kind of fear, because that person obviously who got let go was not being in integrity and decided, to like take away all this stuff, brought it into my client's world. And I was like, oh, okay, but like I don't like I do not have the time to go back into some Google Drive folder and delete some, like document, so it's like, you can't this, we have to change this all, like all this kind of like fear-based sort of came in. And I was like, oh wow, like it just reminded me of like my integrity would be to never touch those documents ever again. Like I would, it's not even a thought that would come in my mind,
Yeah.
like, and like I said, it would just take too much time and be like, why would I even bother? And yeah, so that just kind of popped in my head recently, being like, oh, interesting. Like that's another aspect of integrity that I hadn't really like
Oh,
delved into
100%.
before.
There's so many things like that's such a great point. And I mean, if you know that integrity and stuff is important to you, your values of your business, like that's going to fall into the line of questioning that you do too, right? Like, so when you're about to hire someone, there's going to be questions lined around like your integrity. Show me a time when, you wanted to do one thing, but you knew that it felt right to do another thing. Like, show me those examples and see if people even thought about those scenarios and how they think about them, right?
Right.
Then you'd be able to catch on way quicker if like someone's in integrity or not. I've had plenty of conversations with different CEOs where someone has done something and it's felt really off. Like you're just like, that's not in integrity. And if that person's okay doing that there's likely places that you don't even know about that they're doing it as well. And so it's just being really, really aware of it, because if that is one of your values, you're going to pick up when people are out of alignment and out of integrity. And
Mhm.
then you end up with scenarios like you talked about. People take files, people take business, they take IP. Um,
Right.
it's just such a, it's an unfortunate thing that we have to deal with as business owners, but I think all those are learning lessons of like how do we filter better for that in the future.
Yeah, and I really like that approach too, right? Like, it's like, okay, how do we sort of solve this solution and or this problem? What's the solution to it? And yeah, that's a really good place to start. Is like, yeah, kind of ask that question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question as well. If someone asked me that in an interview, I'd be like, oh, wow, that's a good question. I probably have to really think about it. Like,
Yeah,
where have I
yeah,
had to choose? Like, oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That's kind
yeah.
of how my engineering brain, as you can probably start telling, it works. It's like I got a problem. Okay, how do we solve this problem, and how do we find where it started?
hmm
And if you can figure those things out, then typically you could solve for some sort of system or processes moving forward.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And then change things to be more of like a long-term solution as opposed to just like a band-aid right now. Um, Something just popped in my head. I was gonna give an example about something. Oh yeah, actually, I was just recently speaking with a potential new client, and they had asked me something where I would sort of be doing like an office hours kind of accountability sessions with their group, and she was like, well, if they asked a specific question about the program, would you feel be comfortable answering it? About like what she teaches. And I was like, well, I'm like, I have knowledge. Like, I don't claim to be a business coach. I do like know things based on different things that I've been taught. I'm like, but I would feel more comfortable if I actually knew your content and then I could speak your words. I could answer in the way that you are teaching, or I would just defer to you. But I felt like that was kind of like an integrity question, right? And it's like, am I going to say, oh yeah, I'd answer anything because I know everything or whatever, or would I actually just like, or would you defer to me? And I was like, I think I would actually probably defer to you if I didn't know how you would teach it, because
Yeah.
that's more my integrity. But yeah, it was interesting how she asked that.
Yeah,
So,
what a beautiful, yeah, that's exactly what she was looking for. It's like, is this
right.
person gonna just randomly make things up, or are they gonna ask me for what the actual answer is and give it to my
Right.
customers, right? Like that's
Yeah.
essentially the question, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's to do with integrity as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Like how do you respond to that, and how do you support the people that you work with?
Yeah, it just has to feel right to you, I think, at the end of the day. Like I just recently, I'm going down to an event in November for a group of business people. It's more of like a mastermind. And I'm a part of the welcome committee, which means the newer people that are coming, I'll say hi, I'm friendly, right? Like I'm a connector. So they want me to be a person to help connect the people into the group. Now it's like I'm totally fine with that. And then afterwards they said also, like, can you remind them that there's like this thing happening? And then see if they want to join the mastermind afterwards. And I was like, listen, I'm 100% okay with like connecting with people and bring them together. But if it feels salesy to me at all, like I'm not interested. Like that's not me. I'm not there to connect with people for like an ulterior motive. And so if I could feel that it's natural for me to ask it and you're okay, I'll do it. But otherwise, it's probably not going to fit. And they're like, no, no, no. The way that you want to do it makes sense. And so I literally established my boundaries. I was like, this is not integrity with me. This is how I would do it. If you're okay with that, then great. And if it aligns, awesome. Our values align and I can do what you want me to do. Otherwise, I'd rather pass on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just really, once again, knowing like what feels good. And so when they are asking me that, I literally felt it inside my body. It's like, I don't want to do that. Like,
Yeah.
and so instead of like not listening to that voice, I was like, okay, this is telling me that there's something out of alignment with how I'm being asked to do something. Let me explore it and then let me see if I can find a middle ground that works for the both of us.
Yeah, yeah. That's so great that you came up with this so quickly. Sometimes that happens to me and I'm like, oh, I know this is out of alignment, but I can't think of what it is right now. It might take me like, I'll have to come back to the person. And so like that's usually what my response would be like, oh, you know what? I'm like, something's not feeling quite right about that, but I'm not entirely sure what yet. So can I get back to you?
Yeah, and that's a great
Let
way of
me
doing it too. It gives
process
you
it.
time to think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, are you an introvert? Would you say you're mostly an introvert? Or yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Whereas I'm an extrovert. I just think on my feet and think out loud. So it's just different ways of processing the same stuff.
Yeah, totally, totally. Right. So let's talk about creating deeper connections and, like kind of ways to do that, why it's important and how can it really help with business.
Yeah. This is something I've been giving a lot of thought to recently because on the business side, obviously I'm a connector between businesses and marketing agencies. But I've sat down and kind of questioned like how have I built so many connections over the course of the last 7 years. Like I had no business network when I first started out. And I built my business network to the point where I've been invited to $50,000 rooms at no cost and, join masterminds at no cost. And people typically call you, I'm doing quotations with my hands, like super connector because I don't have a better word for that. And so I kind of got down to a point where I was like, I just kind of always love connecting with people and connecting people together, but I've never really distilled how I do that
Mm,
um, because there's clearly things that I'm doing that I'm not aware of that allows me to build deep connections with people in less than like 10 minutes when I want to. Um, and so I'm building out a model called amplified relationships, where
mm,
in the model, I talk about an amplified relationship is where two people connect self to self versus connecting on what I call secondary nodes. So consider
mm.
like the self to be considered a primary node.
Okay.
And then you have all these secondary nodes, which are typically your interests, things that you like talking about more. And so for me, for example, a secondary node can be like business. It could be sports, like soccer. It can be food, eating out. And so you have all these secondary nodes that most people will connect on. But then the core of where you really connect deeply with people is where you connect self to self, which is essentially like knowing what your values are, what your beliefs are, who you aren't, what you're aiming to build in life, and what you're excited about, what you're passionate about. Like these are the things that are like core self things. Um, and so I'm building a model to show people how they could structure conversations and when they know they're having those deeper conversations and talks and how to build deeper relationships in all aspects of life, whether it's with their spouse, whether it's with their kids, whether it's with their business CEO partner or their employees, right? The model applies to kind of all of it.
Nice. Yeah, applies to everything. Yeah, because I would assume that you would have sort of different conversations with different people, like whether they were sort of like your peer or if they were like, yeah, like someone like an employee. Would you say that you would have a conversation or ask questions to get those deeper connections differently, or is it all kind of like similar?
Yeah, I mean, the foundational aspect is just like understanding who someone is and what their values are. So you can
Mm,
actually approach all the conversations in a very similar way. But the secondary nodes you're going to connect on are going to be different. So the self to self, I mean, we're all essentially people, right? Um, it doesn't matter whether you're a CEO, it doesn't matter whether it's your partner, it's still people, right? So if you can connect self to self, that's on the people aspect. Where it becomes different is on the secondary nodes. Like, for example, if I'm connecting with another business CEO, I'm going to connect with them over like business conversations. I'm going to connect over, going to different masterminds and traveling and that type of stuff. Maybe we're building a lifestyle business versus building a large, company or whatever, and what the difference in that is. So the conversations there are different versus if I'm talking to, say, an employee, probably not going to be talking as much about the business because there's going to be less of a business understanding, right? Like they're going to be really strong at the engineering aspect of it or the sales aspect or whatever it is. But instead, I'd go, oh, this employee really values like going out into nature and spending time with their family. And so therefore that's going to be the secondary node connections that I'm going to have with that person and realize the values that, they want stability, they want to feel loved and connected. Like you're connecting on different things.
Right.
And essentially when you think about really large companies and the values they create, it's because a company is, let's say, a faceless person, right? Essentially the values of the company need to assign to the value of a person, which is essentially that self to self connection. And that's
Mm.
why when company culture gets ruined and it's not followed, people feel very disorganized and they don't feel like it actually aligns. Right.
Yeah, yeah. I felt that when a company I worked for got acquired and by a very different company, and the culture completely changed, and they were like everybody felt misaligned, and we're all just like, what is going on? And a lot of people left or got let go, and there was like tons of changes. And I remember being like that sucks because I loved the culture
Yeah.
of the original
Yeah.
company before it got acquired. And I was like, oh yeah, that totally changed. And not that the values or the culture of the other company was bad in any way. Like they did amazing stuff and they did have great values, and it seemed like some of the values were sort of aligned, but like not really. And so yeah, like nothing against them. It's just that it was just so different, and it changed the culture so drastically.
Yeah, 100%. No longer aligned with the values that you had and kind of moved on. And
Yeah.
I mean, the same thing can work in different relationships that you have, right? Like, for example, I just recently went to a Tony Robbins event and he talked about like the six core needs that a human needs. And for me, the top two that literally run my life is like certainty and connection. And I realized that I didn't want those two to be, well, I wanted connection to continue being one of my highest values, but I shifted the certainty one to, um, oh, my brain is blanking. I shifted it to growth. Um, and now I come to my wife and I go home and I say, hey, I know that you know that I live my life obviously through certainty and connection because that's just everything revolves around that. But I'm moving it over to more of a growth and connection piece, which means that I'm going to let go of these things and I'm going to do more of these things, which ultimately might change my values. And just my wife is also a very growth-minded person, and just letting her know, like, hey, there's a shift going on here. You're being aware of it, and just we get to connect on that stuff. And I was like, well, what do you think your two needs and things are? And she's like, I think it's this and this, and we kind of talk about it, and then we get to understand each other a bit deeper, right? Um, it's super cool when you have that kind of communication, that openness, and able to connect on a deeper level because all the other stuff doesn't matter. Your interests can change, but at the core, you're connected through the values.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love like learning all these little extra things, and it kind of makes you think in different ways and connect with people in different ways and learn about people like that. I like to do that sometimes when I was in corporate. If I had like a new project team, we would do some of like a team kind of kickoff, and I would either do something like that or get them to ask us some questions or maybe do one of like the little quizzes or something. And one of them I remember I got them to do was The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. I don't know if
Tell
you've
me
ever
more.
heard of that.
No.
It's the way that people respond to expectations.
Hmm.
So you have oh no, I'm gonna forget them all. I'm the rebel. So like if you expect me to do something, I'm likely gonna not do it. um there's there's the questioner. So they're gonna like question everything until they feel fully informed, and then they'll maybe like go with the expectation. Um there's the person, oh God, what's the word that I'm thinking of? Um, which is like the highest one where you're like it's not the pleaser, but where you kind of like will do everything for everybody else, right? And then there was
Hmm.
another one, I can't remember the name of it, where they just kind of were very independent. So like a good example was like, you have one type of person who, if they send out an email at 10 o'clock at night, they don't necessarily expect anybody to respond to it. They're just thinking about it right now. So they're just going to send the email. You respond whenever you respond. So that's kind of their mentality about expectations.
Yeah.
But that other one that I can't remember the name of, they would see that email at 10 o'clock and they'd be like, oh my God, I have to respond
Yeah.
because the expectation is there. Like, oh, if you email like then I have to, And so yeah, it's just kind of interesting. So I got them to do that sort of quiz, and just so we could understand, so we could work better together, right? So then when I saw, I could remember word of it. One of the engineers was, the kind of like the yes person said yes to everything, and then we would be in a planning session, and I would see them yes, 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 and I'd be like, think you're over capacity, right? Because I just knew that they were just like taking
Hmm.
way too much on because they didn't really know how to say no.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's just fun to get to know people in that way. And in the meeting when we were all sharing, there was this one guy and he was a questioner and he's like, well, I don't know if I really agree with that, and this and that, and blah, blah. And he started questioning it and we're like, mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, like you get to know different people and you know how to then manage them a little bit better, right? And
Yeah,
hopefully if they
exactly.
get a tune of who they are, then they go, oh, maybe I should step back and do something different if it's not working for them, right? So yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Thanks for sharing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. Oh, well, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much. I've loved this, and I love the whole like self to self connection and how you can connect with each other in that way, and then you have the secondary ones that kind of like is where you can connect even deeper. So where can our listeners find you online?
Yeah, the best places to find me right now are LinkedIn. So Behdad Jamshidi, you can find me there. If you're trying to find me for the marketing stuff, it's www.cjammarketing.com. And then on the amplified relationship stuff, I'm actually building out the website. It's going to be underneath my own name. So www.behdadjamshidi.com. There's a lot of things going on at once, but it's a lot of fun and it all kind of plays together in a really beautiful way.
Cool. And to finish us off, do you have any final words of wisdom?
The biggest thing for me is if you're going through life, like just really understand who you are and what you want in life because you don't want to end up at the ages of, 60, 70, 80 years old and go, I don't think I did what I wanted to do. And I don't really know. And I wish I knew who I was a little bit earlier. Spend the time to do it now, so that you can live a life that you're really, really passionate about.
Love it. Thank you so much. And thanks for so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa signing off authentically.